Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Outcast, Season 2, Episode 1. Full spoilers for the episode as always. So it's been a while since Season 1 finished, and we kind of pick up more or less where we left off. I mean, discounting some driving time, I suppose, but other than that, it seems like we're a few days at most since
Yeah,
the events of the finale. So we saw that Kyle and Amber tried to leave, but they kind of couldn't because it seemed like they were just going to be surrounded by more of these possessed people on their way out. So they have came back to
yep.
Rome, and they are kind of hiding out, hiding out at the old house, the old family house, with the sheriff's wife. Actually, one of the standouts for me in this episode is they seem to be giving Amber more to do. She
They
seems to
do.
have a bit more of her own plot, and I actually think she's not bad. Like the actress is doing a decent
Yeah,
job.
definitely. There's always a concern with child actors, isn't there?
Yeah,
But nothing to worry about here.
she has this weird thing going for her now because she's in on what's going on. Like her and her dad have always had this sweetness, but it kind of still, the thing in this one where
The
he
car
says
seat.
ass, and she's like, oh, you can't say ass, and like
Yeah,
yeah, and then in the front seat, back seat stuff, like all that was kind of adorable, and it felt like she was kind of trying to be more grown up. Like she's almost been forced to grow up because of what she's going through.
yeah,
So, but no, so the scene where she goes out to her cousin, little Holly, who's like out in the sort of pier at this house, and she comes out and sits in this nice big shot, this gorgeous shot of them like on the pier, and looking out at the water, and she doesn't reply to her, and Holly gets up and walks back to the house, and there's this awkwardness,
mm,
and you kind of like get this thing that this plot like over the season for at least Amber's are going to be like how she's looked at differently by her cousin and by other people perhaps.
yeah,
But she also has this scene where she goes into Megan, who's still broken. She's still a complete wreck after the events of the finale and
mm.
getting possessed and killing Mark and all that stuff. And Amber tries to go in and like tell her it's not you. You didn't kill anyone.
Yeah. It's not your fault.
And she kind of understands it really well because her own mother beat her up while she was
And
possessed.
it's that whole eyes of a child that can recognize that it wasn't her mother.
Yeah,
She even though it looked like it, she can see that it wasn't, and she just has that clarity about it.
yeah. She's not bogged down with the murkiness of everything. She just sees it as like, no, it's this, it's X and Y, and
Yeah,
there's no mixing of those things. It's just this is what it is.
yeah,
But of course, Megan's still kind of distraught, and in fact, she doesn't even say anything. Like Kel comes in and tries to speak to her, she doesn't say anything. Eventually, she does. When she finally opens up, it's because Kyle's been speaking to the sheriff and is like, "We've got a plan to make sure Megan's in the clear. We're going to say that Mark killed himself because it's the only way that like the upper authorities will buy it and
yeah,
go along with it." And Megan's insisting that she won't disgrace his memory by letting people think that he abandoned his family.
yeah.
Which I get. I get her point of view. I mean, at the same time, I don't understand how they're going to get her out of this situation without saying something like that.
No, and I think that's kind of their point, though. Like
Oh
that's
yeah,
it's not a fault against the show. She's just doesn't want that to, be what people think of
oh no,
him.
yeah, no. This is a proper conflict. I get where both sides are
Yeah,
coming from, and I think everyone outside of it would just say, yeah, just say he killed himself because
yeah,
that's logically the right thing to do. But she just can't let that happen. She's
yeah. It's
not
the
willing
she's
to.
too sentimental about it.
Yeah. So that's kind of her stuff. Otherwise, obviously, we have Kyle going around and try to like investigate Sydney, try to find him. He tries to find various people. He gets to the fireman that we had in first season
Mm.
who kills himself. Uh, which you can kind of see coming. You can kind of see that's where the conversation was going. It had
Yeah,
that kind of feeling about it. But he shoots himself, but Kyle sort of like moves the gun just at the right time, so he still gets shot. He still shoots himself in the face, but it's more the cheek than it is.
yeah. It's gloriously gory as well.
Yeah, it's pretty good. The violence spikes up for that moment,
Mm.
and he does get the list of names that like, all the possessed people he collected because that's what him and his wife were doing last season.
Mm.
Now Sydney and his wife are missing in action. We don't know where they are.
Yep,
Up to no good, no doubt.
presumably.
But they go back to, I think it was the kid who he dealt with in the very
From the
first
first
episode.
episode, yeah.
Yeah, and his parents now are both possessed. The kid's not anymore because he was dealt with, but the parents aren't. And Kyle tries to exorcise them and he can't. It doesn't work because apparently these demons have been in them so long that they're fully
Yeah,
here.
they're,
And
they're too
once
far gone.
yeah, and once they're fully there, once they're all 100% in the body, that's it. He can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
So
it's like there's nothing left to save. There's nothing left to bring back at that point.
yeah. Sheriff shows up. It's kind of nice that the sheriff's completely in on things now. He's like trying to work with
Yeah.
Kyle and they're trying to figure things out. It gives the show a bit of a new, fresh dynamic, and it's interesting because he goes to Kyle and he's trying to problem solve and he's trying to say like we need to try and figure this out. We need to try and go to these different
It's very
people.
proactive which is different to how he was last season.
Yeah, he was kind of investigating because he suspected things were going on, but he never was quite hitting on the things. Like he doesn't like. Whereas now he knows that this stuff is real, and like
Yeah.
I actually really like the scene where they first speak, and he's talking about the most horrific thing that night. He actually went in a slightly different direction with it than I thought he was going in, because he said like, all those people were chained up in that building, and not one of them was reported missing, and he then read that as. Well, that scares you how big this thing is, like how far does it go, how many other people are possessed that aren't reporting this. That's kind of where he took the conversation.
Yeah.
Whereas when he said it, the first thing I thought was, like, how shitty is this world that no one cares about these people?
I think it'll end up being a bit of both. I think
Probably.
at the minute he'll be assuming it's just this big conspiracy, the demons not doing it, but I think ultimately it will be a combination, and that'll be kind of more horrific because this show had this whole thing where the humanity was often scarier than the demons.
Yeah, so the lack of empathy. It's a very cold and dark world.
Yeah.
Which is why I think Amber and Kyle, like their relationship, and Amber trying to like reach out to her aunt and stuff. That's why those moments of heart really hit home. It's why in season one, where season one really got good for us was when they revealed what was really going on with the wife, and they didn't just beat her up, and it wasn't him. There was more to it than that. There was actually a special relationship in there, and I think the heart in the darkness is kind of what gives this show its real spark. Because the horror stuff's good to a point, but I think it's that side of it that really gives it its own depth.
I agree. Do you know what I had forgotten that was very good in this show? The direction.
Yeah, it's
Very, very strong.
yeah, it's got a style. It's got a directional focus, and it sticks to it. There's some good moments.
And it was something I'd kind of forgotten because it'd been a while, obviously, since we've watched it. And then very quickly it reminds you.
When Amber's looking for Holly and she finds her in the attic, that entire thing of her walking up there was very horror movie-esque. Where slowly opening the door and then you see the light, and you almost expected a jump scare.
Yeah, and I really like that once she's up there looking around, the camera's pretty much at her head level, so you're down there with her. It's really good.
And Holly's scared of her, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah, but it's an interesting dynamic for it to play through.
I love that the kids have their own weird relationship and subplot now. Like, I feel like this could be kind of glorious in a weird way for it to play out on its own sort of own little bubble. Because they'll probably be at the house most of the season, or depending if they don't move. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can see if the adults are all off trying to like solve the crimes and get Megan not to be like tried for murder and fight the demons. Like, if they're trying to do all that stuff as adults, like the kids are going to be left with a babysitter a lot of the time. And I'm wondering how much of a subplot we're going to get out of this stuff. And I think it could be interesting. And because we talked about how I think in the finale, I mean it's been a while, but I think we talked about how Amber might be stronger than Kyle is at this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a possibility at least, and I'm wondering like, okay, Kyle can't exercise these stronger demons,
Yeah,
but
maybe she could. We just don't know yet, do we?
it is worth mentioning though. It still hurts them. Like they still right, scream in pain, and they're still.
Oh yeah.
Like
It just doesn't have the actual effect.
Yeah. So, of course, the other main character we've not spoken about yet is the Reverend, who. Do you know, it's funny because it had been so long. As the episode was starting, everything was just sort of like clicking back into my memory.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is how that ended. This is how that ended. And so Kyle arrives back to home, and we see the Reverend standing in front of the burned down sort of home and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, he burned down the home. I was like, and the ginger kid was in it. Like there was this moment of realization.
Yeah.
When I remembered what he'd done, and I just because I remember at the time when we talked about it, like how he just kept screwing up, how he kept sounding more crazy in public because he kept saying the wrong things, and he kept just like, "Shut up, you idiot! You're making things worse." And then at the end of the season, when he did this and he accidentally killed her kid, I was like, his screw up counter is just going through the roof. He cannot do anything right, which is why I laughed in this episode when he said, "Yeah, I tried to kill Cindy, but." Luck with Havoc, he wasn't at home. I guess I effed that up as well. And I'm like, your list
You
is
have
going off the
no
charts.
idea yet.
Yeah. So the cops do find the body, but they haven't dug it up yet. But they see the foot and whatever.
Yeah.
By the way, the new deputy
Yes.
is a face that we keep seeing on TV. She is jumping around all over the
Yeah.
place. Her new name here is Officer Nunez, but she has been on both Supergirl and Agents of Shield. Is essentially the same character.
Pretty much, just one of the agents.
Yeah, and what I think's funny is this is a little bit different, but it's still kind of the same thing where she's just
That law enforcement.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's not obviously the sheriff, but she's like one of his minions essentially.
Yeah.
I know that's a really weird way to say it, but just to compare it to those other shows where she's just one of the agents.
Yeah.
I feel like
She's slightly more elevated here. She's moving up in the world.
Yeah, she's definitely like she's more second in command now, which is definitely higher up than those other two shows. But she's just getting around doing these like law enforcement
I do feel
roles.
like she's going to get some proper plot in this one, like questioning the sheriff and doing her own thing.
That's what she's going to be. She's going to be one who doesn't know what's going on, and she's going to question, why are you doing this, sheriff? Why are you doing all these things off
And
the books?
thinking he's corrupt.
Yeah, yeah, but well, of course we know he's not. But that'll create some tension and drama, and maybe she'll be brought into the fold, or maybe she'll end up being a bit of a sort of accidental Trojan horse for the characters, without meaning to. Or maybe she'll just get possessed in episode 2, and that's a completely different
You
plotline.
just never know with this show, do you?
But that's kind of where we are. But yeah, so he's feeling guilty because he realizes what he's done, because he sees the helmet. I think it's the helmet for his bike.
Yeah.
He sees in the wreckage, and he runs into the kid's mother. What's her name? Patricia, or just Trisha, or maybe Trisha short for Patricia. But either way, he runs into her, and she's like putting up missing poster signs, and like his eyes the entire time are just glorious to watch, because he's just.
Like, he was like, "What have I done?"
There's so many times in TV shows, right, and in movies where they get drama because one character has a secret they don't want the other person to know, because the person will not like the secret. They won't like what they find out.
Yeah.
There's very few that are as extreme than I accidentally killed your son. There's very few that are that severe.
There are, and you really understand his uncomfortableness here, because that is a secret you don't want her to know.
And because usually, like you say, alright, they're going to be pissed, they're going to be falling out for half a season or a full season, but eventually the character will win the other person over. I don't see how you can possibly win this woman over after accidentally murdering her child.
Yeah, after burning him to death.
Burning him to death. After, as he points out in this, he was kind of responsible for him getting like kind of rebellious and running away and stuff.
Yeah.
Like he already kind of feels guilty about that. But he obviously tries to help, and he's like, "Oh, let me help," and he's putting up the posters around town to try and help with his guilt, knowing that no one's going to find him.
It feels like a hollow gesture, though, doesn't it? Where when he knows where the kid is, it's like, why are you even doing this?
Oh,
this just it looks like you're putting on a show.
Well, he is obviously. He's trying to.
He is, but
he's trying to like, and I actually kind of like that it ends with him trying to tell the sheriff. Like, he does tell the sheriff, and the sheriff puts him in jail, and he's like, "I thought I was being led by Christ, but it was actually the devil, and you need to make me pay for my sins."
I like how that is symmetry, like the symmetry of that from the very start, where when he talks to Kyle, he goes, "Oh, fire is the devil's weapon, and I used it against him." And so this here, where it was the devil the whole time. So he says, I really like that.
Yeah, actually, he goes to this, and I'm sure we're going to get more of this because they made a point of introducing it. But we got this kind of
not quite a church, but definitely a congregation.
Yeah, I was going to call it like I don't know, like a rogue church or a like off the books kind of church or something. Like.
Yeah, it's definitely a congregation of these, religious people.
It kind of felt like they didn't want to be like super labelled. Like I was kind of get that impression because she says it's people who have like seen the darkness and now they want to find the light, and she didn't really get specific. So I don't know if there may be a specific branch of Christianity or whatever, if it's just more of a general.
Yeah, because even the Reverend says, "Oh, I thought I knew every church in this area," and she's like, "Well, this isn't really a church."
Yeah. So. But no, so obviously the blonde woman that he speaks to, I presume we're going to see her again, because she's the one who makes a point of like coming out and having some dialogue with him. And I'm not sure where this is going to go. Maybe this will become a source for warriors to help Kyle.
Yeah, I was thinking like they recruit their army.
Yeah, like an army for Kyle, because like regular churchgoers are not going to believe him when they're.
But it feels like these people are the ones who know the truth.
I was almost see before they actually went into the scene and she was talking to him. I was actually thinking when we first saw them, is this like a collection of people who are all possessed before, who are like, because they can't go to a regular church and talk about it, so they've made their own little makeshift one to express themselves and try and help themselves. Kind of like a self-help group kind of idea.
I feel like obviously because the Reverend got kicked out of the church, I imagine this is where he'll end up being, joining them and maybe becoming one of their leaders and giving them sermons.
Preaching again. Yeah, he gets to return to, assuming he's not in jail for
that. Yeah, it feels like that can't last that long. But...
Which I wonder how they're going to, because unless he's going to spend the rest of the season in a jail cell and helping like Hannibal Lecter, I don't see like how they're going to get him out of it. Unless Sydney and some demonic stuff like makes the body disappear or something like that, and therefore they just can't hold him because.
Yeah, maybe.
Kind of
I'm not entirely sure, but there's got to be something. Because, like I say, unless they do go the Hannibal route, which I don't really see them doing, it doesn't feel like that. But...
Also, how can we as viewers see him mess up even more if he's in a jail cell?
I think more importantly, he just went out and met this church of people, and he's the only one who has this link with them. And if they're going to be a returning plot point, which obviously they are, how else are we going to have that if he's just in jail?
Yes. It's interesting. I'm not sure where they're going with it, but I'm curious.
I'm looking forward to seeing it, yeah.
I'm looking forward to him messing up repeatedly, because he's basically a pathetic shell of a man. He keeps messing up, spectacularly so.
Yeah, I mean, he did just kill a kid.
Yeah. Ginger kid, which at least makes it not quite as evil.
It's not as bad, no.
It's close. He was awful though. I'm just remembering
he
now.
was an absolute dick.
Yeah, I mean, not deserving of murder, sure, but he was awful.
Yeah,
it's kind of this weird thing when you're watching a TV show and it's their characters, so you want to kill people for less when it's fiction.
Yeah, definitely.
There's not a week by I don't watch Arrow and want at least half the characters to die miserably. So
half is being generously low.
I don't want to appear too sadistic.
I mean, it's pretty close to 3/4.
I've got to keep an air of humanity about me.
I don't. I'm ginger.
Oh, that's the first episode of Outcast.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I'm glad to have it back.
One minor plot point actually we didn't mention. Kel's mother is dying. She seems to have had a stroke, and she's in the hospital. She was comatose anyway, so
it's kind of not that different to what we've had.
She's been lying in a hospital bed since we met her, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm sure this will be revealed to be something or related to stuff or shenanigans. But no, I'm really looking forward to like a sort of Logan-esque sort of thing this season where Amber becomes a little badass and takes out demons.
I feel like it has to kind of move towards that.
Yeah.
Maybe if not this season, that'll be like next season. But it feels like she's on that path.
Okay. We'll see. Oh, something about badass kids. If they can act well enough and they're badass, I like a good badass kid. There's something about...
It is cool, isn't it?
It's something about... I don't know. It's like, even though we're not kids anymore, it's kind of like I wished I was a badass as a kid.
Yeah, it's wish fulfillment.
It's a retroactive wish fulfillment is what it is. Plus, I think especially... It's the same reason why like having someone like Buffy works. And yeah, I dropped a Buffy reference. But it's where you take someone who you don't expect to be able to stand up for themselves, so a kid's like even more like that, where...
Yeah,
because the whole premise with Buffy, of course, is it's a little blonde girl, she won't be able to fight, but then she kicks the shit out of the vampires. That's the spin of the show. But it's the same thing with these badass kids, where you watch like Kick-Ass and you see Hit Girl taking out henchmen left and right, and she's like a total murdering machine.
Yeah,
it's it's cathartic because it's like the bad guys think she's helpless, and it's really fulfilling to show, no, I'm not helpless. You're helpless, you son of a bitch. That's a really satisfying feeling.
It is.
So, but there you go. That's Outcast. Episode 1. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. Helps us out a lot. Get us on Twitter at mild_fuss for channel updates. Individual Twitters on the screen for general everyday ramblings. So thanks for watching. Once again, guys, have you got any vanilla?